Fuck you.
There's something in us that loves to hate fictional characters. Perhaps it's a desire to watch someone cunning and conniving finally receive their comeuppance. Or maybe watching someone despicable helps us to feel better about ourselves. Whatever the case, tonight's panel will focus on what makes a good antagonist. Is it a sympathetic background or simply an evil nature? Who knows what we'll discover as we discuss villains right now on Dispatches from Outside the Box.
In the spaces, things exist. In the lines that form the network of your mind. Behind the retinas of imagination are the particles and peripherals that made you who you are. Turn off, shut your eyes, and listen to Dispatches from Outside the Box.
All right.
Bravo on that editing, bro. I got goosebumps.
Thanos should not have been on there.
Oh my god.
Well, that's what we're here to talk about. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the show where we scour the corners of geekdom to help inspire you to create outside the box. I'm C Michael Lanning, asking you to like, subscribe, share, and hit the bell icon, not only for this show, but several other shows and our future dispatches, which is going to have cryptids. We're talking maybe serial killers, and even our first profile episode of Jim Henson. So look for that to come, but you all can only see that if you hit the bell icon.
Jim Henson, cryptid serial killer.
There you go.
Who just made me Jim Henson.
I knew Kermit was being tortured the entire time.
No Muppets were harmed in the making of this video.
But it's like Peter Jackson's famous show. What is it? Meet the Feebles?
Yeah. Meet the Feebles.
Oh, yes.
It's like really, really out of hand. They try to mimic that, but it just never. What was it? The Puppet Town one that they had with Melissa McCarthy.
They missed the point on that stuff. Yeah. You know, they really do.
Yeah, that was villainous in itself. Speaking of villains, that's what our panel is here to discuss today. We're talking villains, and yes, that can include some directors. Started first with Miss Daphne Lage. Go ahead.
Arch villain. Trying to steal the moon. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Daphne Lage, and I'm a cartoonist, illustrator, and comic book artist from New York. Not much of a villain origin story there. I have been self-publishing comics since 1992, and I am known for the funny animal fantasy adventure Tall Tales, and my medieval fantasy soap opera drama, Eagle Raven, Heir of the First Unicorn, which is on pre-launch on Kickstarter right now. Link is in the show notes. I am also co-host with Nita Lanning on Ragin 2 the Vlogs every Monday and Friday here on the Ragin 2 network. And in the meantime, you can read both my comics online at Tall Tales, TAILSonline.com, and egoworks.com, EGOWRKS. And you can check out all my videos on how I make my comics on YouTube at Daphne Lage, Lage Art, which also streams through the Ragin 2 network. So hit that notification bell.
Awesome. I like the way you EGOWORKS.
I know. I feel like
Nice.
supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. What up?
And also, with the name like a villain, Invader Zim. Go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
Invader Zim, no relation. Hey, everybody, I'm Randy Zimmerman. I am a longtime alternative and independent comic book creator, publisher. Done just about everything in the business that you can imagine, retailed for a while. Still coordinating conventions and doing a lot of sequential art for the commercial art industry. So happy to be here. I also do the Zimcast, which is on Wednesday nights for now at 9 p.m. and the Sunday Funnies program, where we try to put the fun back in funny books and talk about positively about the passion of this industry that we love so much. Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. That's the Sunday Funnies. Both of those, again, right here on the Ragin 2 network.
All right. And of course, we were kind of worried there for a second because we didn't get to see him in the chat earlier, but he made it. Mitch Rogers. Go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
Hi, I'm Mitch Rogers. I'm an independent horror comic book writer and artist known for the Boger horror comic book series.
Oh, yeah.
I've been doing comics since 2008. And I may do them for a little bit longer. Who knows?
Another month or so at least, huh?
Yeah.
There you go.
For the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
And of course, with his new haircut and the Superman picture behind him, you kind of got me worried tonight. Jared, go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
You know, Lex would look better with a goatee, I think.
Definitely.
I agree, sir. I agree.
Then how could he become president? Have you ever seen a president with a goatee?
Hey, Jesse Ventura.
There should be one.
He didn't win, though.
And Jesse would make a great president.
Would have made a great
yeah,
president.
I'm Jared. I'm an aspiring comic book artist, creator. One day, maybe. Who knows? I'm an all-around nerd, big geek, love pop culture, learning new things. And on occasion, I have been confused with being a villain myself. And who knows? I might be on someone's list here. I don't know. Someone's list, maybe.
Maybe so. It's a frenemy list.
You're not doing it right if you're not on somebody's list.
I'm definitely on somebody's list.
Oh yeah, well, we are all the
Woo,
villain.
me too.
We are all the villain in somebody's story.
That's right.
But that's okay. I'm the hero in mine. So that's
I
all.
posted that.
You're my hero.
Oh, see. And speaking of you, go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Nita Lanning. I am the blue-eyed savage in Mouth of the South. I'm a writer, vlogger, blogger from Southeast Louisiana, and I have the privilege of being the villain in many of people's stories.
A new one every day, right? And of course, just because we have this panel doesn't mean that you can't comment in the chat. We love to take comments. We love to talk about what you're talking about. And if you're going to have an argument in the comments, I might not include you, but we're watching you, so
Yeah.
you might be entertained.
Fight!
So before we begin, let's get a meter for who we consider a villain. Who stands out as a
M.
dominant
Night
villain?
Shyamalan. You said we could include directors.
Who stands out as a villain?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's start right there. The
So Skeletor Goldblum.
the OG Bone Daddy.
Woo!
He said so evil, but never gets it. That's the only thing he gets right is being evil.
Yeah. Well, if he, stopped hiring so many bumbling idiots all the time, he'd probably get somewhere.
Look, it's like there's a shortage of minions. It's like, good minions are hard to find.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
That leads me to another question: is there such a thing as a good minion? That's what I want. Randy, what about you?
They always let you
It's always a good minion. Orca was a good minion, wasn't he?
Who's that?
Orca.
Well, he was more of a sidekick than a minion.
Yeah, more of a
Was he
sidekick.
Sidekick.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's minions. Minions are funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're not very good at it. So-
That's why they're funny.
The Sheriff of Nottingham.
Okay.
That's
Wow.
a villain. That's kind of a villain.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a straight up
He's more
villain.
of an arch nemesis.
That's more of a
Yeah.
lackey, though, isn't it?
Nah.
yeah, well,
Jesus Christ! Well, can we define villain? Oh, here we go again. Here we go. We're
well,
gonna
no, because I was
fantasy.
thinking, I thought you said Sheriff of Nottingham like he's a minion.
No.
Because wouldn't he be kind of Prince John's minion or
Lackey.
lackey?
lackey? Just
Yeah.
lackey. So there's a
Lackey.
difference. So what we're saying
So you
is
say
that-
technically Prince John is the villain.
Prince John
Yeah,
is the
Prince
villain.
John
right?
is the villain.
Technically.
Right, because
Yeah.
the sheriff couldn't get away with
Yeah, but Prince
what
John
he was
wasn't
doing.
hot. Fuck, man.
Well, no.
That matters.
But, you know,
Depends on what
it would just
adaptation, I guess.
yeah, it would distract too much from Robin Hood. There were furries to be born that day.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Man, this is
Oh!
a good one. This is a good
Dr.
one.
Claw.
Dr. Claw.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did,
I'll
they,
get
you.
they, but they never revealed
I'll
him in the
get you,
cartoon,
Inspector
right?
Gadget.
No, but there was an action figure that revealed his face.
Are you kidding me?
There was?
No, it's true. Yeah,
Oh my gosh, I want to
I
I
see
meant
they
there was
did-
a character sheet
Google
for him
it.
somewhere. Then
he looks
Yeah.
goofy, but yeah, Google it.
Could
Well,
totally do
his
that.
he was the nemesis to Inspector Gadget, so sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, with that claw, he was pretty menacing. Just on
Oh.
that, you know.
Right.
Lord. Yeah.
Especially when he tried to pet his cat.
Yeah.
Oh, this is totally destroyed me. Hold on.
Yeah, this is
Good
really
Lord,
good.
I'm looking at it
I
right
told
now.
you it's goofy.
Like even for
Oh,
Inspector
sure.
Gadget, what the fuck?
God,
I do not.
Oh,
I do
this
not
isn't
see
my
that
show.
blood coming out of this face.
like it's like no gadget, no.
Gadget!
No Gadget.
Let's
No,
see.
no
I'm sharing up there.
That's Echo.
Oh my gosh! Why would
Oh.
you do that? It's not even.
What haven't you learned by now not to Google stuff?
It's not Rule 34. So I
Do
totally
it.
understand.
I was totally about to do it. Google Dr. Claw. Rule 34.
I would love to say that's not
No.
real, but it is.
But look
It
here.
was
Look.
a real action figure.
Wow.
Yeah, that's sad. Well, look. Did they reveal the mysterious Dr. Claw? Like, no, don't do that. But didn't they? Like, who was it? Rupert Murdoch that played the character?
Rupert Murdoch.
Who
Everett.
was
Not
it?
Murdoch. It's Rupert.
Who was it?
Rupert
Everett?
Everett.
Whatever.
Everett.
Well, he ruined Dr. Claw, so I don't care what his name is.
That whole movie ruined Inspector
Oh
Gadget.
my gosh, I wouldn't have got Matthew Broderick to play Inspector
Oh,
Gadget.
no.
What were they thinking?
Don Adams. That's who
Well,
should
I
have
mean, technically that's
think he
what
was
Inspector
passed by that
Gadget
point.
Was
was
yeah,
It's a little
based
too
on.
old.
So yeah. But
absolutely.
yeah, that's
At the time, you know, is he alive? I don't know.
He's been dead for at least 10 years. I know.
At
I'm
least-
sure
yeah,
he passed
yeah.
before the
See, they
Inspector
should have just
Gadget movie
waited.
Came out.
They should have just waited. Got Steve Carell. I mean, after all, he did play Get Smart, so that would work better. But still, we were talking. Who stands out in your mind as when I say villain? Who comes to mind?
Probably your old Darth Vader staple or Ming the Merciless from Flash
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Definitely.
Gordon. Mole Man from Fantastic Four, Doctor Doom, especially.
But yeah,
Yeah.
Doctor Doom. I was just thinking that.
That's a good villain.
Definitely a quintessential villain.
Oh yeah. Well, Doctor Doom kind of helped to add that layer of mystique to Darth Vader, right? Because supposedly he was partially the inspiration for Vader.
Well, when I was a
there's
kid,
there's
they
a
used to
lot of
fight each
different
other.
inspirations
Oh, yeah.
out there for all of the Star Wars.
Yeah, George
Von
Lucas was
Doom.
known for biting from a
Absolutely.
lot
Hey,
of
Brian.
people.
Yeah. Mitch, how about yourself, sir?
I would probably, I guess, because I'm a Batman fan, but I'd say the Joker,
Yeah.
the classic Joker. You know, none really, none of the screen versions really. Just the the basic Joker,
Right.
crazy homicidal clown.
Not Jared Leto.
God no,
No.
Speaking
Caesar
of
Romero.
villains,
my Joker
was
does
criminal
not have
alone.
tattoos.
right?
Oh, there you go.
Right.
That's a good one.
You're definitely
Oh,
not the Joker in this last Batman movie.
Now, I'm glad you brought Magneto up because I wanted to ask this question. That's kind of segue. All right, when Magneto started, he was just an evil villain. He was just an evil mutant,
Right.
right? Claremont gets a hold of him and kind of adds this sympathetic
Humanizes.
backstory to him. But my question is, was Magneto a pretty well-known and formidable villain before he was given a sympathetic backstory?
Yeah.
Well, he was a just an outright outlandish villain at first, and it wasn't until later on where they humanized him, Claremont. But I like villains like that, the ones that don't consider themselves a villain, because in his mind he's only trying to do what's right for his own people, because he grew up Jewish and outcast, and the whole concentration camp, Holocaust, he kind of sympathizes with that. He wants to save mutants the way he wishes the Jews could have been saved. Of course, a little more violently, but
Right.
Well, it's like you can't topple dictatorships peacefully. So,
right. Well, but okay. Before he was given this backstory, and of course, this is before my time.
Mm-hmm.
Was Magneto? That people looked at him as this villain, or like this.
They really didn't show off his power level much until the Byrne Austin days, but he did do the little magnetic stuff for a while and had a whole group of supervillains, the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants that he put underneath him that would rotate in and out all the time. It's where Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver really came from.
At least it was in the name.
Right.
We made it easy for everybody.
They've since made it just the Brotherhood.
Yeah. Well, they don't want to call themselves evil.
Yeah, who would?
They don't see themselves as evil. Yeah.
Well, okay. So then let's put it this way. Let's look at Darth Vader. When Darth Vader came out, the quintessential villain, right? Everybody hated him, Star Wars, but you didn't need a sympathetic backstory for this guy to cement himself as a villain in pop culture.
Right.
So we need a sympathetic background?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, well, you see, the funny thing with Darth Vader is that in the end, he was only really sympathetic to Luke.
Yeah.
He was he had his redemption arc, but it wasn't really. I mean, the galaxy still knew him as a fascist asshole. But to Luke, he was redeemed as a person. Right. So I think that with Darth Vader, they actually played it both ways, where it's like, yes, he was redeemed, but it was only on a personal level, while in the greater galaxy society, he's still a villain.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask this. Did the prequels ruin Darth Vader?
Well, only because they were bad movies.
They ruined everything.
Not because
they ruined
the story itself was bad. I mean, technically, the story was exactly what Lucas wanted to tell. His execution was highly questionable. He didn't do with those that he did with the Empire and with Jedi, getting somebody else to direct.
The biggest disappointment with the prequels is that they didn't turn Boba Fett, or they didn't turn Jar Jar Binks into Boba Fett.
Well,
which
that's
they
the
should have done,
one, right?
Which they really should have done. Yeah.
But I guess what I'm saying
would have been the ultimate snub from George Lucas. You don't like Jar Jar Binks? Guess what? He's Boba Fett.
Instead, they made him a senator.
Put a helmet on, and now he's a kick-ass bounty hunter.
Okay, before the sympathetic backstory, he was two-dimensional, just a bad guy.
Yep.
But is that wrong?
No.
Star Wars is an example of tropes and archetypes.
Yeah.
Especially A New Hope.
Right.
And what you do with that is shows you the quality of the production. That's why Empire was so good. They got Mark Waid up there and the writers, and everybody was rolling off of A New Hope. Let's go one better. And then when it came to time to do episode 6, it's like, how many toys can we sell? And aren't teddy bears supposed to be vicious? Yes. Anyway.
Teddy bear. Well, supposedly the story is that he wanted to use the Wookiees but he that's why he put Chewbacca in, and the Ewoks were supposed to be the Wookiees, and he chopped them in half, and basically
Wookiee's
so
just a
it's
cowardly
budget.
lion, though.
That they're budget, a budget constraint.
that's what the story is. I'm telling you, I don't know about the consistency
Budgetary
of George
constraint.
Lucas, to be honest with
We
you.
ain't got enough fur. We're gonna have to hire smaller people. Oh, okay.
Well, if he had this whole story telling out like he said he did, he had the Wookiees in there.
He didn't.
I don't believe it either. But he said he had the Wookiees in there, but
Give
he
it a
really
bit of
wanted
the
to
doubt.
have them.
He never
Go ahead.
expected it to go into episode 5, let alone become the
Episode
12-part trilogy.
You know what it was is he's trying to
He
make an
was,
excuse.
he was lucky to. He
for the
figured he was
Ewoks.
lucky to get the first one made.
I
Holy
mean,
crap, that was a
remember,
fight.
he didn't even, decide on whether Leia was Luke's sister, I think, until Jedi.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm
Just making
telling
it up
you.
as we went along.
I'm telling you.
Even as a child,
No,
I was
actually,
like, will
no.
they? Won't
Right.
they? Who is she
Yeah.
gonna pick?
Let's
Right.
hope they don't. That's right.
And all of a
gosh.
sudden you're hearing Kill Bill sirens everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
What is it? Man, meat-eating teddy bears. How do they have clothes that fit Leia? They ate someone.
Yeah.
There it is. There's the real villains of Star Wars. It's the Ewoks. Real villains.
They had really
around.
good
What's up,
tailors.
Pops?
Okay.
What's up, Pops?
Hey.
Hello.
Okay, but even before all this, and you had the sympathetic backstory, and now we have Maleficent backstory in Disney, and we have the Cruella de Vil. These characters were just evil, and we
Right.
loved them for it. We
Right.
didn't need a backstory for
Yeah.
them.
Well, you see that's the thing, because that's always
Lost
that's
Randy.
been a pet peeve of mine, is these whole it's like, look, it's like all Maleficent needed to do was come into a party and announce that she wanted to murderize an infant.
That's
Okay, all Cruella had to
I mean, that's
do
evil as
was
it is.
walk
Just kill
into the room
puppies.
is kill puppies, and she wants to make a coat out of puppies. I mean, it's like that's all the backstory you need.
right.
It's like even with Darth Vader, they really didn't need the backstory. If you're talking about, I mean, all of the original Star Wars is all archetypes. It's the quintessential hero's journey, and that's all it is. It's all just running with those tropes that go with it. The thing is, though, is that now there's this whole thing, especially now that Disney is trying to. What it is that it has less to do with telling a story as needing to justify these characters enough so they're easier to market. So that's what it is. It's like they have to redeem Maleficent. They have to redeem Cruella, because it's like now it's like, oh, we can't sell these IPs as merchandise as much if they're just villains. So we kind of have to soften it. We have to soften them, and it just absolutely drives me bonkers. It's like, just let villains be villains, and what's happening is that we're not getting villains anymore.
The
I mean,
occasional redemption story is not a terrible thing if it's
No, it's
well
not.
written, but when
Right.
you're just doing it for the fucking sake of marketing another product, fuck
exactly.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Where you need to soften the blow. I mean, the thing that I loved Kylo Ren. I really thought that it's like they
He was a
were going
bitch.
to push him.
Yeah, we can't be
No,
friends.
but
now.
the thing is, though, it's like
But
that's
at first
Show
he
am I
was-
on?
part of the appeal, that he's a big piss baby with a lot of power.
Right.
You know,
Her, Mike.
and the problem,
Wait.
was that at the last, they decided they needed to rehabilitate him, because all of a sudden they realized how popular he was.
Mm.
So it's like, oh, he can't be a villain anymore because he's popular. And it's like, you assholes, you're telling a story. It doesn't matter if he's popular.
Well, I
Thank you for
think they were
joining
going to
us,
redeem
Daphne.
Kylo from the beginning.
Yeah, I
They,
be
they
honest,
might just because they're trying to follow that Darth Vader trope. But I'm going to tell you this much: when he showed up on the screen and he stopped that laser right in midair like that,
Yeah, you
Yeah.
never seen that before. You know?
never
Yeah.
seen that. And that was
cool.
like badass. Okay,
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
and then it was just downhill from there.
Even Poe
Yeah.
Dameron, he was like,
It's a
"What
shame.
the fuck?"
Well,
Yeah.
but that's a lot of studio interference, and it's like, oh well, it's like we need to push these characters instead of these,
Well, yeah.
and
But they messed up by showing his face in the first movie.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Well, because they pay a lot of money for these actors.
Right. Yeah, right.
You know, that's the thing, you know.
Well, then he should definitely cover his mug up.
Yeah.
But I
He's
think
not a good-looking guy.
It's kind of like JD hates the fact
back to this.
that what the Marvel movies did to Loki. He goes, Loki is a villain.
Yes.
You know, first Thor movie, he's a villain.
Straight up.
But
Well, he's always been a whiny bitch in the comics, and I actually like what they did with him in Disney. You know, to be honest with you, because he's an exception to me.
Bye, Jared.
I do. I like what they did with him. You know,
right.
Loki's show could have been better, but in the actual MCU movies, I kind of liked his whole redemption arc.
Well,
because you were like, is he going to backstab him? What's he going to do?
Well, you see, that's the thing. Why did Loki need a redemption arc? He's a god. Yeah. He could do whatever the fuck he wants. Now, they did an entire series of him going to therapy. Once you start sending gods to therapy, you're done.
I mean, okay, to be fair.
My god needs therapy.
To be fair, he's the quintessential redheaded stepchild without being redheaded. You know what I mean?
Right.
He wasn't loved as much as the actual son, so he always felt like he had to prove himself, and that's why he fucked around a lot, you know.
Get off in here.
I mean,
is that my daughter?
Yes, that's your daughter. Go to bed.
My gosh. Well, no, because she was really upset. Now she got into the Marvel movies. What was it? It was actually Thor Ragnarok that she got into the Marvel movies and started watching them. So because she was preparing for the Loki.
Oh yeah.
And Randy says his Xfinity is being the villain for him.
Right. Okay.
So,
well, yes.
And she was prepared. You know, she was prepared because this show was supposed to be off the rails. It was going to be Loki. It was going to be so Loki. Loki couldn't even handle how Loki it was going to be. But it really failed to bring in Loki. There was no Loki. There was no Loki at all.
Yeah, it's just everybody going to therapy. That's it. You know?
And it's like and I think it's like the writers forgot that this Loki that we see here is not the one that went through this redemption arc that we saw in the Thor movies. This is the Loki's like, he just tried to destroy the world. He just tried to take everything over. He just brought the Battle of New York. Showing him a slideshow is not going to do him a damn bit of good.
Well, you see, and here's the thing too. It's like, at what point are you beyond redemption? You know, because it's like, you can have a little genocide as a treat.
Anakin
killed
Anakin,
puppies and babies.
You know, people love him.
Right. Yeah. It's like really, he needed a redemption arc. He killed children. I mean, it's like, at what point is it like, you know, it's like cool stories, cool story, bro, still murder. Still murder.
Well, I mean, I guess in the Vader sense, it's kind of like everyone can have a bad day, but he just gave himself a bad life. He didn't have to be a little whiny bitch the whole time.
Yeah.
And Clone Wars did a better job with Anakin than the actual movies did, because Clone Wars actually made you like Anakin. The movies was like, what the fuck's he whining about?
Yeah, I killed them. The mother.
It's the funny thing about Clone Wars, right, is that it was the Ahsoka episode where she was on trial before the Jedi Council, and everyone was and the Jedi Council was about to throw her under the bus, and then it's like they're like, oh no, this is your test. We changed our mind. I mean, if Anakin was going to turn to the dark side, it was in that episode. I swear. It's like, to see what the Jedi Council was willing to do to Ahsoka, and it was just like,
that's why she's like, I'm no Jedi.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that was the episode where she left the Jedi order. And it's like, that's the episode where Anakin turned.
I'll have to take your word for it. I couldn't
Yeah.
get through Clone Wars.
It was good. It was good.
Oh yeah, you got to fight your way through some of the kiddie episodes, but it gets really
I'm
good towards the end. It just climbs
So-
and climbs, gets real good.
So I've heard, but
I don't
yeah,
have
I'm
enough
just not
time
a Star,
to
I'm
fight
just
my
not a
way
Star
through
Wars fan
to
anymore.
watch something.
Rebels
Whatever.
Rebels is the same way. It starts out a little kiddish and then it gets
Oh, God,
phenomenal.
yeah.
Really
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
But I wanted to kind of address this with Brian said many times adding the sympathetic backstory does wreck the villain. Magneto is an exception in my honest opinion. And the thing about it is what Claremont did, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was Claremont that gave him the backstory, right?
Yeah.
Right, okay. But what Claremont did was he made an antithesis to Xavier. So basically, Magneto's backstory was only to add more of a level to the tension between their relationship.
It was
So
to
I think
reinforce
that's why
the
that
whole
worked.
Martin Luther King, Malcolm X strategy that they had with Magneto and Xavier.
As opposed to having a whole movie about the Joker to highlight mental health disorders and make him a villain, and that doesn't even make any sense to me. It's like you're highlighting mental health disorders just to turn around and make him a villain. It's like it doesn't. What are you saying? It's like, there was absolutely no need for that, and they didn't even take it to where you had a balance. You didn't have that antithesis with Batman or his arch enemy. Now I think they tried to do that in that new Batman movie with the Riddler, with basically the Riddler's poor and rich people suck or something like that. I don't know.
I don't know
Well,
what
I
they
mean-
were doing with the Batman.
Well, with the Joker, technically the villain was society that allowed people like him to kind of like fall to the wayside. The fact that Bruce Wayne, it's like his family was a billionaire family, and they allowed their own city to crumble the way it did, where people could just fall.
Well, they had
into the
expenses.
cracks.
Their kid needed clothes. Daphne, stop being so damn judgmental.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
But
what
see,
I didn't
that's-
like about both the Joker movie and the Batman, because in all the Batman mythos, prior to that, the comics, the TV shows, the movies, the Waynes were like the one rich family trying to improve Gotham. So making them like part of the corruption, and stuff, makes their, my opinion, their murder less tragic. When one of Bruce's things is he's trying to, or one of Bruce's motivation is to kind of
Live up to that.
live up to his parents' example.
Dressing as a
making
bat will
them
do
just
it.
like
Right. Well, that's the difference between being a millionaire and a billionaire. You see, a millionaire, you just become a weird eccentric. A billionaire means that you actually control the city. So yeah, it's like by that little change that the writers made, they did make the death of his parents less tragic, because technically they were part of the system that led to their own deaths.
Well, and
What do you
that
do with
goes
your
back
money?
to-
Dress up as a bat. What do you?
Yeah.
You're not helping anybody.
You're just beating up poor people with mental
down.
illness.
that goes back to what we were
Or a
talking
crazy
about
person.
earlier about every time you fill out a villain's
my God, I'm
backstory,
Batman.
you lessen the villain.
Yes.
Right,
yes.
right.
It's the
Do we
same
need a
thing.
backstory for Ming the Merciless?
No.
Didn't get
No.
one, not that I remember.
Right, exactly. We don't. We just need him to be Ming the Merciless.
Right.
I mean, it's like, do we need a backstory for Patrick Bateman? Technically, he does have a backstory, and he's an asshole in the entire backstory. There's
It's like when he's looking in the mirror when he's
Bret Easton
Oh my
Ellis
God.
in the novels.
That gets the
It's
coat
like
hangers out. Oh, my
He
God.
really
Yes.
goes through Patrick Bateman's history. And this guy was damaged from the beginning. So he's an irredeemable character. But that's what I love about him so much.
Same.
That he's irredeemable and he's unapologetic. And you see, and that's, I think, what makes a good villain. They're
Yeah.
unapologetic for what they do.
Okay, what if that book came out today?
You can still get it. What do you mean?
No,
Yeah.
I get that. I get that.
What are
It's
you
a one-off,
talking about?
and I get that. But what if that book came out today and the author was like George R. R. Martin, where like, how much money could I get from this product?
You know,
You know what I
Would they
mean?
give
Like-
him a
Oh, it'd be
sympathetic backstory?
shit. It'd be shit.
Well, that's what
I-
Thomas Harris did, isn't
The
it?
thing is, though,
It would
the
just
very
make
least,
it
it
more
would be
fuckable. That's all.
problematic.
Bret Easton Ellis, well, the thing is, though, when American Psycho came out, the novel, I mean, there was a lot of controversy behind it because of the
Oh, yeah.
fact.
Yeah, I
I mean,
remember
it's like it's not like what if this book came out no, the shit hit the fan when that book came out. I think back in the early '90s or something.
Well, stuff
And,
was
you know,
too taboo then. Now
you
you,
know,
gotta,
I
now
mean-
you have to,
Yeah, now that's like PG.
You know,
Well-
well, I mean, it's like, but that's the thing. But Bret Easton Ellis himself, I mean, it's like even back then he was like, "Oh, fuck y'all." You know?
Well, yeah, I think that's what he said.
he
It's
had
like,
to be
how a writer should
unapologetic.
be, in my opinion.
Right.
It's a good thing that it was
apologetic for his work.
it was a good thing that it was written then because we weren't when did we start seeing this sympathetic backstory for villains? Really, this has been in the past
15 years, maybe.
yeah,
Past
like
15
it has
years?
it's been
20
pretty,
at most. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's recent. Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, a
When
redeemable
did the
backstory
novel
was a shot.
Grendel come out? Not
When
the
did what?
comic book. When did the novel Grendel come out? Not the comic book by Matt Wagner, but the novel taken. That's like a reimagining of Beowulf. It was like the 50s or something. I think because I was in that book. I forgot who wrote it, but whoever wrote it, it's the same story as Beowulf, but from Grendel's point of view, and basically,
It's their fault.
yeah, he's a monster who can't sleep because the Vikings are partying all night long. That's
Oh.
essentially, what the
Well,
book
I
is.
mean-
Everyone has a bad day.
Yeah, right. Right. Well, okay. Let me think. What was I going to say? Okay. Well, you look at Sauron. They came out with Sauron.
Huh.
You
Yeah.
have Sauron. Now, I know they're going to give him a sympathetic backstory in this upcoming Lord of the Rings.
He's
Wow.
probably going to be handsome.
Something like that.
Well,
yeah.
the thing is, though, I'm not
Exactly.
familiar with the actual backstory, so I don't know how much they're
Doug Gardner
actually
wrote it.
changing. I mean, it's
Gardner.
like I know that there is the whole
you.
sexy Sauron, but
Oh, I'm sure
as
he
far
will
as
be.
I know, he was evil back then too. So
Yeah, right.
He was like, hit
Yeah.
it and quit it. You didn't start a family with him.
yeah, right.
But there
Hey,
was this.
bitches rings.
Well, what gets me is you got something like, for instance, you take M. Night Shyamalan's Unbreakable,
right.
and you take Glass.
Yeah.
And because kids
Split.
picked on him and he was horribly disfigured or had his disease or whatever, he became bad. But that was kind of a mental thing, right?
And they
So-
gave him enough
Yeah.
backstory in that movie. I haven't seen the sequel to that.
Don't.
Oh,
But-
don't.
Just,
I've heard
just
it was-
don't.
Stay
I heard
away.
it was bad.
Yeah, I
Stay
will.
away.
But I mean,
You watch Split?
Do you watch Split?
I haven't. I haven't.
Oh, watch
Split is good. Split is
Split
good.
is fucking
Other than the-
awesome.
The only bad thing about Split is it'll make you want to see Glass.
Yeah.
So that's like
Yeah.
the only downside about it.
Now I feel like I have to.
You can watch it, but just be sure you've been warned. Just
Yeah.
remember,
Yeah.
M. Night
Split is-
Shyamalan only comes out with a decent movie every, I don't know, like a clip
And,
20
or
years.
something.
and the rest of it's just happening.
Yeah.
But
Guy
I
has
think,
one good movie and thinks he's a filmmaker.
yeah. So what gets me is you have these backstories where, oh, yeah, I was bullied as a kid, so now I grew up to be the villain. And it's like, wait a minute, what happened to the bullies? Are they the heroes? Maybe we got this backwards now. Why is the bullied
Yeah.
kid the villain now because he got bullied? What about the assholes that were doing it in the first place?
Well, that's like Marvel. That's they always did something like that. They were like they always gave the troubled child who grew up to be the villain, and
But-
or hero. In all honesty, like Peter Parker grew up being picked on, but he grew up to be a good guy.
Yeah.
Well, he was raised by good people also.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Nurture over nature, right?
He's raised by his aunt.
And uncle. But
Who, they were good
And
people.
Well,
Yeah.
for a little bit.
yeah.
The rest
It's
of
like
Tomei
the,
tried.
DC did when they did the new 52, they had a villains month where every major villain had a their own little one shot. Every last episode, every last issue of that, and I was able to read them all. I had a retailer friend of mine, because they overshipped. All they had to do is return the covers, so I got to read the interiors on every one of them, which shamefully I did, because every last one of them was the same. Every last one of those villains were molested as a kid. Every last one.
Fucking DC.
Same story, over and over.
Well, the sad thing is,
It's okay
that
if one's molested.
maybe they used it because it was so relatable.
Right.
Well, that means everyone
Maybe
who's
the editors up
molested is
there,
going to grow
yeah.
up to kill people.
Or be
Yeah,
a
just
comic
one
book
in-
editor.
Just one,
Yeah,
just 1 in 4.
Just 1 in 4.
Yeah, well,
Daddy touched me now. I got to murder people.
exactly.
look.
Golly. Well, I mean, but no, it does. Sure, it lends itself to the case.
You knocked Nita off the air this time.
I spit on my comics, man.
The bullies become the villains' victims.
Yeah, they're the first ones to die. Horrible deaths.
Oh, by the way, speaking of villains, I forgot that I had pre-ordered this book. Right. So speaking of villains,
Hear me. The Thorn Valley Plan is the aspiration of idiots and dreamers. We were just talking about you.
That's refreshing, Jenner. Usually you're screaming about us.
yeah. So I just had to remember
Okay,
that.
so
I love
what
this
is his
movie.
Speaking of
backstory?
villains, I mean villains.
Does he have a sympathetic backstory? Is there a reason besides?
Only-
Well,
only
yeah,
you-
kind of.
No, actually, he doesn't. Actually,
Oh, he wasn't
doesn't.
molested.
No, he was not. No.
Not that we know
He
of.
just had electrodes
Well,
put in his
let's-
brain.
It depends on what you mean by
actually,
molested.
molested in another way. He was
Yeah,
molested
it's a
by
different,
scientists.
different
Yeah,
molestation
yeah.
that we're talking about.
You know, so his,
Hold on,
you
I
know,
We're
gotta-
so getting canceled. Fuck.
we're you know.
It was a question.
But
Yeah.
no, just to put that out there, yeah,
Yeah.
we're not saying people who are molested become villains. And,
Only 1 in 4.
and it is a horrible
Hey,
situation.
you pointing
Yes.
at me? What the hell? The thumb's pointing at me. I'm like, wait a minute.
Oh, that's
Well,
you right here.
Right. Well, you know what? Okay. So let's get chat to fight. You know, let's get
Oh,
chat to
boy.
fight.
Oh.
Tyler Durden,
Okay.
is he a villain?
No, he's an inspiration, Daphne.
Is he a
Is
villain
Is
or
Tyler Durden a villain?
is he a villain or is Jack crazy?
Crazy.
You know,
Tyler
That-
Durden is a hero.
Oh.
Brad Pitt is a villain.
There you
no,
go.
I'm talking about Tyler Durden.
No,
The
he's a
character,
hallucination.
not the actor. I'm talking about Tyler Durden. Is Tyler
It's a-
Durden the character? Fight Club.
Fight Club, yeah.
Fight Club.
Well,
Is he?
he
a villain?
is, but then so is Jack, the other guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Thanks for spoiling it.
I didn't spoil really. I'm talking about
Is there
Jared
a-
Leto again.
If you
Well,
haven't seen the movie by now, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
Kind of gotta-
if
Yeah.
if
Is
it-
there a
Missed
statute of
childhood there.
limitations on spoilers for
Which,
movies?
by the way, Jared Leto was in that
Half
too.
an
and
hour.
He's a prick in that movie.
yeah, but
Right,
he gets,
and
he's
he gets,
himself.
he
gets
gets the
treated
shit-
like him.
he
Like
gets
his face
shit out of it.
blasted.
If
doesn't
you
he?
like, yes, if you like to see watch Jared Leto get his face bashed in and
Mhm.
split open,
To a
Mm.
pulp.
yeah,
Yeah.
you'll love this movie.
I felt bad for Meatloaf.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Robert Paulson. His name is Robert Paulson.
His name was
Ms.
Robert Paulson.
Meatloaf.
Uh,
He had boobs.
Which reminds me of
Bob
another
had
villain.
man tits.
Another villain. Ooh.
Dr. Frankenfurter.
Oh,
right. Well, it's like, yeah,
He's
it's
a hot
like
dog.
technically he was
Speaking of
a
meatloaf.
villain, right?
Right. I mean,
But what exactly was his villainy?
yeah.
Except maybe, okay, he was holding a couple hostage.
he did
Well-
kill Meatloaf.
Well,
He held them hostage, but behind the scenes, he showed them a great time.
right, yeah. They learned how to dance.
party displays.
But mind you, he wasn't. He didn't dance with them though, right? He didn't do the time warp with them.
Right.
He came
in
later,
after.
So, yeah. But he did murder Meatloaf, so that's
Yeah.
So again, he's an irredeemable villain then
It's an
because he
irredeemable
murdered
villain.
Well,
somebody.
see, you talking
created
about
Rocky.
Frankenfurter, you got to go to the other Tim Carrey villain, which you showed in the intro.
Oh.
The
Well,
Dark
he's
Darkness.
redeemable because it wasn't children or puppies.
Well, but
Well-
the thing is though, it's like
No sand people were hurt.
yes. Yeah, I mean, God, that was such a. I mean, really, it's one of Ridley Scott's like.
Mhm.
I mean, that was the movie that I think like really convinced me that man knows how to use a camera.
Huh.
You know, really.
Oh yeah.
Special effects for being so low budget was just
Yeah.
Well, just the way
mind-
he felt like the snow part when the snow finally took over and the darkness
Right.
came in and everything, or even the unicorn. Just because I'd spliced something like that, or one of the earlier shows, and just taking pieces of it and putting it together, it still worked in that one fluid motion without having like it like when they're cutting off the unicorn horn. There's a lot of stuff going on at that time, but the way he filmed it was still
Oh, it was-
seamless, even
yeah, it
though he
was-
broke it up.
That was awesome.
Yeah, but
and Tim Curry was awesome.
Yeah, he
course,
was.
right.
That's how you
Yeah,
know
he
a
was.
villain's going to be good.
Yeah, he didn't have to put you under a
Boy.
trance or a spell or anything like that.
Right? No,
Just
that's.
admit it, girl. You'd be like,
Oh,
sir.
that Tulsa Doom.
Oh, there you go.
Snap! Yeah, no, really, villain.
Yeah. Show them while they feel the night.
I know, my gosh, nobody else could have
Whoa!
said. Nobody could have given that line
Oh,
except James Earl
nobody,
Jones. They wouldn't have pulled it off.
Oh, yeah.
He wouldn't have pulled it off. But we didn't need a backstory. Okay, now you fussed at me. You fussed at me for putting Thanos in there. But let me put it to
Why?
you this way. Because it's yes,
Just
it's
because
necessary
you
MCU.
agree,
evil.
just
It's
because
the
you
MCU
agree with the
Thanos.
villain doesn't mean he's still not a villain.
But
Comic book
just because-
Thanos is a nut job.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Movie Thanos, that shit had to be done. Okay.
I know
Put
they
his
come
foot
back with the
down.
Eternals.
He's like, I got a plan.
They come back with the
Make the
Eternals and
universe great
made
again.
Thanos the good guy and the Avengers the bad guy. It's like, wait a minute. It's like, you just totally undid everything. But no, when you look at Thanos in the comic book, his main motivation was basically to impress Death. That
Murder
was
as
it.
many people as possible.
Hey, look!
To love me.
You know, it's like, hey, ask Ragin. You know, it's like I forgot what's his name, Chapman. I mean, he shot. No, it wasn't. No, Chapman was John Lennon, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I get all my assassins.
Oh, your assassins.
Oh, right. But it's like Ragin was shot because the dude was trying to impress Jodie Foster.
Oh, right.
Makes
Right.
sense.
I remember that.
You know,
Makes complete sense.
absolutely makes complete sense.
Little did he know she wouldn't have been interested. But
But she did say in a recent interview, it's like, yeah, that was cool.
Well, to be honest, no one knew that about her at the time. So
Yeah.
it's kind of
Yeah.
up for
that's
Right,
what I mean.
yeah,
Little
yeah.
did he know, but he tried.
Right.
You got to give him props.
Right, you know, yeah, exactly. He went for the
Do
big
what you
score.
want to do for the woman
You
you
know.
love, man.
You know, Yes,
Gargamel
Gargamel,
is an
yes.
irredeemable villain. If I
yes,
said
he
it.
is. You know, and he's a character they softened as the series went on.
Yeah.
And he has a
when
cat.
when the Smurfs started, Gargamel wanted the Smurfs because he wanted to make stew out of them.
You're right.
And then
right.
as the
yeah.
series went on, they changed it that he wanted to turn them into gold. I guess making Smurf stew was a little, abridged.
He
too
learned
far
alchemy.
for,
That's what that was.
Yeah, exactly.
He learned alchemy.
Eating
Right.
Smurfs, just not,
Well, yeah. So what do you?
It's
So what do
really
you
the
think that was?
mushrooms he wanted their house.
It really, yeah.
Right.
It
Right.
was.
He just didn't understand. That's what
Yeah.
it was.
That's what gave him flavor.
I wonder what led them to decide to was eating Smurfs so terribly bad for kids' cartoons?
Well,
Because it didn't start off as a kids IP, right?
No, it wasn't.
no,
Was
it
it
was
what,
Belgian.
Belgium, yeah.
Peo, or something.
Peo.
Right, Peo.
I'll
Pew,
say
pew.
peyote, so I didn't even try.
Right. I only learned
you
about the
tried.
Smurfs when I used to live in Spain, and they're called the Los Pitufos.
One more time.
Los Pitufos.
Ooh. Okay.
So those
See,
are
I
Smurfs
would
in
think that was a pastry.
Spanish. Right.
Well, so did
It's
Gargamel.
blue. It must be good and tasty.
Exactly.
Well,
So,
yeah, because it's
yeah.
got the white cream on top. I mean,
But
Ooh,
also
yeah.
Whoa,
keep in mind,
whoa,
I don't
whoa,
at
whoa.
the time, also at the
Wrong
time that
show.
the Smurfs came up, there was a lot of interference from parents groups at the
Right.
time. too.
Million
So,
moms.
Yeah, it's
Fuck
really
you
like
guys.
it's 5 guys on the internet. That's
Yeah,
what that
right.
Yeah.
is. Or at the time, it was 5 guys writing letters.
Snail
Yeah,
mail.
so-
I'm gonna really show you.
yeah, exactly. So I think that's probably part of why they made the change was because of that, before they really latched on to Dungeons and Dragons, sort of accusing everybody of Satanism.
Okay, so let me ask this question. Talking about another Jack Kirby creation. Did he create Thanos?
No.
No,
He wasn't.
no,
one that
that's
created
Jim
Thanos.
Starlin.
Okay, but he did Darkseid.
Yes.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
All right.
New gods.
Now, Darkseid, of course, is probably Thanos is probably a ripoff of Darkseid.
In a roundabout way.
Technically, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know enough about Darkseid. What was his deal?
It's a ruler of apocalypse.
The antithesis to the new gods, which were the good, and he was the devil, basically, without the word devil.
Yeah, well, see what it was is Jack Kirby got a chance to jump from Marvel to DC. Over at DC, they asked him, "You can do whatever you want. Do whatever you want." So he went through his old notebooks of gods and
He went to your
different
pal
pantheons
Jimmy
and
Olsen.
stuff. Huh?
He went and did my pal Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen.
Oh, they gave him that book because it was the lowest selling book, and they were expecting it to become the highest selling book. And they said, "Jack, do whatever you got to do." So what Jack did is he laid out this chessboard, and he had 2 different sides. There's a king and queen, rook, bishop, knight, and pawns set up for both sides, and he ran them against each other. And then to take the pieces off the board, he created the Black Rider, which was a black man who was in a coma in a hospital that went out in shining armor on skis flying through the air that picked up the souls of the dead.
Black Racer.
Black Racer. No, not Black Racer, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Black Racer.
Even still, it's a villain on skis. How many?
Yeah.
Oh, Marvel had the Silver Surfer. They had to have something.
It worked for a surfboard, so
Yeah.
skis. Yeah.
Silver Surfer, Black Racer.
So was Jack Kirby he was just going through all? Next thing it was going to be the copper jet skier or something.
Oh, he was
like
moving
that.
pieces on the
Yeah, the
board. No,
golden
he was
glider.
using his imagination as far and as fast as he could, and did all sorts of crazy things. He created the Forever People and the Mr. Miracle at the same time. And those, you look at the Fourth World material, and you have to wonder about, and it had your basics, good and evil, and Darkseid was definitely the main big villain who was always out looking for the anti-life equation so that he could end all life, get it all over with, and thus rule the world. Don't ask me how that works, but that's the way it was.
Yeah, there's no universe. How could you rule it?
Golden
Well,
Glider was on skates.
Right on the anti-life, yeah. Golden Glider.
Quintessential Green Lantern villain.
What's that? That was that.
Wait, it was a
Flash.
I'm thinking Rainbow
Flash.
Rider. Yeah, that's
The Flash.
Okay, so if that's the case, then we're talking about these.
some Thrasher, Night
Villains.
Thrasher, running around on a
So-
skateboard, right?
Is it safe to say?
Splasher.
And we talked about Batman earlier, and Mitch, did Batman make Batman, or did Batman's villains make Batman?
The villains.
Well, that was really
They weren't actually.
a question that
until
they've answered
Batman.
throughout the ages, But really, the Rogues Gallery for Batman sprung up during the Adam West Robin days, where they started reoccurring a lot of the old Batman villains. Because before that, Joker might have appeared a dozen times before the Batman TV show.
Yeah, he died in his first appearance already.
Oh, he would always die. Yeah, he was like Red Skull. He'd just bump off at the end of it, and then he'd come back, and no explanation. on those early Batmans are amazing, just like the early
Yeah.
Supermans are really crazy. So they all got their iconic status for a reason, not
And-
from the
well,
current
yeah, and
writers. I'll tell
I
you.
don't remember a sympathetic backstory in any of those.
For
Now-
Joker, no, he was always evil. He
Well, for-
started out being the
well,
Red Hood, which
for
was a
most of
mob.
them,
he
sure.
never actually had an
Mob
origin
boss.
until Alan Moore's The Killing Joke.
Yeah, yeah.
No, they went
which
through.
it
and
wasn't really in canon until recently.
during the Dick Sprang days, I believe they showed he was actually the Red Hood, which was a
Yeah.
mobster boss that had a red, just
Well,
not
there's
even.
your-
It wasn't even a hood. It was more like a red dome. And then he got kicked into a vat of chemicals and came out the Joker.
But there's your sympathetic backstory right there.
What?
Yeah,
What?
the comedian
An OSHA
can't make enough
violation?
money, and yeah, right.
No.
But I mean, he basically goes robbing because he can't make enough money to support his family. That's,
Well, that wasn't until the Alan Moore.
but still,
Killing
that's
Joke.
back in
Yeah.
the 1980s or whatever. But at that point in time, the Joker was already. They had to do something new. So Alan Moore comes
Well,
in and gives him this sympathetic,
During
multiple
the
choice background. Let's
well,
put it that
during
way.
the Bob
Two-Face.
Kane days, he went from a homicidal maniac
That's
to
true.
a practical Joker.
Yeah.
All through the Cesar Romero days, it took the Adams Denny O'Neil books to actually turn him back into a homicidal maniac. But those are, like I said, those early Joker stories are amazing.
Yeah.
And then Jeff Johns came later and brought out the 3 Jokers where they were all different throughout history. The reason why he was crazy like a clown was because of the clown Joker. And then he had the.
Would you read that book though, all the way through?
I tried. I couldn't.
The
My
yeah,
gosh.
the
But now
like
we know
Jeff
who the real
Johns.
villains are.
yeah.
I like
The,
Jeff Johns.
The
I just couldn't do it.
the twist is that the 3 Jokers was actually like a ploy from the original Joker to just mess with Batman. The 3 Jokers were actually new in the whole chronology.
Yeah,
What's the word?
Chronological.
Yeah, in that he's basically trying to mess with Batman, trying to make him think that there's 3 of them.
Well, there was talk, I think, for a while of turning the Joker into an eternal evil spirit
Oh my gosh.
that they'd kill off and just come back and possess another person.
Well, I mean,
That didn't even work.
They're kind of doing that anyway.
well, the idea was okay. You took him to Arkham Asylum, except for the Penguin who went to Blackgate, right? So basically, he's not killing them because they're mentally disturbed.
Yeah, out of all the people not to end up in Arkham, they take the guy who has the fetish about umbrellas and penguins.
Yeah.
It was a symbol. It was a lot.
Well, if you want to think about like a sympathetic Batman villain, I would probably go with Two-Face.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he started
Yeah.
off as like, depending on what lore you're following, the only good civil servant in Gotham, the only non-corrupt lawyer who's trying to take down the corruption, and then he gets scarred and then loses his mind and becomes Two-Face.
Yeah.
Well, but they ended up turning around in the animated series and giving Victor Freeze a sympathetic backstory also with the
They had to
with
do
the wife and
something with
everything.
him. Yeah.
And
I think that was the only time they ever did a backstory for Freeze, wasn't it?
No, they did it in the books afterwards, I believe.
well, yeah,
I'm
Well,
after,
sure
like
that
the first
they
time,
carried
though.
all of those elements
Yeah,
from
but
the
before
animated
that-
series over. Yeah.
but see, I
Then
think
in
the
the-
same thing is with Spider-Man. You can look at Spider-Man's rogue gallery, and Doc Ock, Vulture.
Yeah. None of them are really
Mysterio.
sympathetic.
Oh no,
I
well,
don't think. Yeah.
Well, also,
Sandman.
Sandman
No,
was.
there's
And
the
what, the
saying
third
that
movie?
a hero
not
is
even
only
the
as
movie,
good as
but-
his villains.
Well, that's
he
what
had
I'm
the same
saying.
issue in the comics that he had in the 3rd movie with his
That's-
daughter.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, Flash is known, but Flash is not as big. When you can name, the average person cannot name a Flash villain.
I'm average.
Reverse
Don't give a
Flash.
fuck.
Nowadays, they'd know reverse.
You're not
Flash, yeah.
average, Jared. That doesn't count.
You're not average.
I have been told I am perfectly average.
even with Superman, everybody knows there's this Superman and his antithesis, Lex Luthor. And even though there's other, villains that he has like Brainiac and everything, What stands
Lex-
out is Lex Luthor.
Lex Luthor didn't come in for quite a few years after that. It took Dr. Savano over on Captain Marvel at Fawcett for them to even make, in order to point Luthor out, and then made him bald because Savannah was bald. Because originally Lex was drawn with red hair.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. I remember seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's something about being bald. It's villainous, I guess.
Absolutely.
Walter White.
Wahaha.
I'll tell you what, we're going to take a couple of bumps, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about some childhood villains and their effects on us. So we'll be right back.
Now on Sunday mornings, longtime independent comics creator Randy Zimmerman brings to you a podcast that talks about the lighter and more whimsical side of comics, the fun side of comics. That's right. Sunday Funnies is back Sunday morning, 9 a.m. on the Raging 2 YouTube channel and on certain Facebook pages. Check it out, won't you? Special guests, great talk, and a lot of fun as we work to put the fun back in funny books. See you there.
Hi everyone, Daphne Lage here. Join Nita Lanning and me on the Ragin 2 The Vlogs show, where we talk about everything, nothing, and all the bits in between. Looking for hour-long conversations about indie comics, social media marketing, and crowdfunding, with the occasional rant and story time? Head on over to the Ragin 2 channel on YouTube, Mondays through Fridays at 11 a.m. Eastern to join in the chat.
Hit the button.
All right, I'm here to remind you that sometimes even your mailman can be a villain. And so we have to keep that in mind whenever we're shipping out crowdfunding comics. We want to keep them safe. So next time, use Gemini Mailer. And on that order, you can get 5% off by just using that coupon code RAGIN2. And if you have a complaint about what I just said, you can always email us at raginabc@gmail.com. If you want to call me a villain, I'll gladly take it, or whatever you have to say to us, please email us and let us know. Also, what?
That campaign that we just showed, the last trailer, Roadkill Rampage 3, just launched on Kickstarter. Congratulations to Rodney Fike and Tina McEnany from Hasm, because they have already funded.
Oh, there you go.
Good for them.
Yeah, they are slamming it over there.
Awesome.
Are they really? Oh,
Yes,
goodness.
they are.
Slick.
I mean,
Fully
that's like
funded.
nice.
Pretty slick.
Nice.
It's very nice.
So before we get into any more, I have to turn my attention to Daphne because it seems like she has a lot she wants to talk about.
What?
Dead.
Yeah.
Do you want to show us some of your villains?
Daphne can write a
Oh,
villain,
does she
y'all.
have a top 10 list? Let's see it.
I have. Well, it's like I have. Hold on. Let
Top
me just.
20?
Uh-oh.
Well, right. So the thing is, though, this is. The thing is, though, I joke about Skeletor, but really, though,
That is
like
sexy.
he really
Looks like a
is-
Playgirl spread.
Right.
That's
It
the
is,
same
but
pose
it
that
is.
Stan Lee did on his couch, only
You
without the clothes.
It's
Yeah.
like
I
I
thought it was
said,
a Jeff Goldblum.
unapologetic, right?
Yes.
But the thing is, though, I think that the villain that really started my whole path towards this
The dark
this,
side.
yeah, the dark side, pretty much, right? Is the OG Gaius Germanicus Caligula
Oh.
from I Claudius, played by John Hurt. Classic
Gosh, how
BBC,
Look at
classic
that.
BBC show.
I was thinking
All
the
I
Malcolm
know-
McDowell one.
Well, it's like you know what? I haven't seen that movie. I know that's what is a Guccione, like a
It's-
penthouse.
It's pretty Yeah, it's something.
So,
I think that's what I
but there was just something about watching the BBC, watching I Claudius at like 11,
Wow.
and completely out of all the characters, well, aside from Livia, imprinting on this character, and from then on, it's like this was always the quintessential villain for me, where it's just like I said, unapologetic. Even when they tried to do a backstory on him, it was like he was a hot mess from the beginning. Like there was just like in the I Claudius version, it's like there was just something wrong with him from the beginning. Like he murders his father at 6, kind of like type of thing. So and that's, I mean, so to me, that's kind of like I said, the Maleficence, like I don't need an origin story for Ursula. I really don't.
Oh no,
No.
They're not going to give us one, are they?
Of course they are.
They
Of course
might.
they are. I mean, it's like that movie's coming out. Like I know that they have Melissa McCarthy playing Ursula, I think, and you better believe Disney is going to give her some kind of tragic backstory.
Well, I mean, technically, Triton killed her babies.
Right. You see, but that's the thing though. It's like at what point does it's like at what point does these redemption stories actually ruin the story for the hero?
Right.
Because the thing is like, so they did the Cruella de Vil movie, right? Where pretty much they show someone wrote this, that Cruella's mother was pushed off a cliff by a bunch of Dalmatians.
Yep.
She deserved
So
it.
what does that do? So what does that do? So the next time I think of or watch 101 Dalmatians, the cartoon, I'm like, fuck those puppies.
I want fuck them puppies. I want a coat.
Make the coat.
Keep that up, and you'll be a villain yourself.
Already is.
So it's like, by trying to fix what they think is a problem, they ended up creating another problem.
I don't know if they're necessarily trying to fix the problem. I think they're just trying to market it. Squeeze more money out of it as possible.
Soften the character. That's the thing. They want to soften the character so that she's easier to market.
Right.
So you don't have, that.
They'll buy some Cruella dolls.
And that's the problem.
Right.
But that's the problem. I would have bought a Cruella doll.
But see, I think what it is
before her redemption story.
Maleficent made such a huge splash when it came out, and I think they were just trying to market on that villain sex story. But the thing about Maleficent,
villain what?
The villain backstory. Here's another thing.
No, Nita, I heard that too.
You heard it? Oh my god! I'm like,
I don't even want to know. But here's the thing about Maleficent and how you could actually have gotten away with the way that movie was, because when you look at the Grimm's fairy tale, the reason why that last fairy didn't show up for the thing was because they did not have enough silverware. True story.
She's dead to me.
She only had 12. They didn't invite the 13th. She was upset. She cursed them. That's not the case. So but Cruella de Vil, there's just
you
nothing
get ready for
there.
a party, and then you find out at the last minute you can't go.
Right.
That's
cool.
Do you see why this kid is aligned with Daphne Lage? Go to bed.
But the thing is,
this kid is watching Breaking Bad right now.
But that's the novel. You gotta remember the cartoon is based on the novel. And the novel, that's pretty much it. That's Cruella's motivation. She wants a coat, which the novel was written because that was an actual thing that was done at the time the book was written.
So not only are you destroying a villain that this quintessential evil, as it were,
right?
You're also erasing a historical inspiration at the same time.
Well,
but I think in the end it belittles a hero because it's like a hero is only as good as his villains, right? And if you humanize the villains too much, then all of a sudden your hero looks like an asshole.
You can't humanize
It's like, oh,
Dalmatian.
Batman is literally just beating up mentally ill people in his city.
But in defense,
That's a theory.
in defense of Cruella, the Dalmatian
Wait, what?
is the #1 dog likely to bite your ass. So yeah,
They do have
Dalmatians
attitude
are
problems.
fucking evil.
So, right. So
Then why
so,
do fire departments use them?
Because they're fucking fast, bro.
Well, because when they used to use horse-drawn wagons, the Dalmatians would protect the horses as they went through the streets.
Knowledge.
A fountain of
ripping
useless,
babies off the street
useless
out of the
Look that up,
knowledge.
Wikipedia people.
Useless knowledge. We are a nation of trivia answers. So,
Oh my god!
but
Speaking of Disney villains, I mean, they pretty much like she said, Cruella just wanted a nice coat. Melissa just wanted to be invited to the damn party. They had the simplest reasons for why they were bad. They were upset about something. Scar wanted to be king. That was enough.
they're all petty bitches.
Yeah.
The real life villains are petty bitches too.
well, you see, and that brings
The
me
head
to
cheerleader.
well, you see,
Uh-oh.
but this is the thing though. This brings me to a thing that I thought that in honor of the topic was actually relevant.
Oh, let's see.
So I am so committed to this whole idea of villainy, right? So you all know I've mentioned it a billion times. This game called Seeds of Chaos, right? Which is it's a hentai game. It's pretty much a porn game. It's a combination strategy game and a visual novel. And this is the thing that makes Seeds of Chaos interesting. The object of the game is to take the hero and turn him into a villain. And the more you turn him into a villain, the further in the game you go. So, but the thing is, though, the game does give you the option to kind of play the straight and narrow. It's like, how much of a hero can you keep him before he starts turning?
Wow, it's Fable with porn.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nice.
Oh my god.
So
What did I come back to?
right, it's like the hunter that shot Bambi's mom. Well, the thing is,
Not
though,
to them.
it's context,
No.
right? Exactly. It depends on what it's like. Look, it's kind of like a minute is only as long is depending on what side of the bathroom door you're on. It's kind of like that. You're
That's
a
a motto.
villain
That's my new
depending.
motto now.
So the thing is, so I'm playing
She's
this
full of
game.
those.
So I'm playing this game, and it's like, and that's the thing. I mean, yeah, I could go straight full asshole and end the game really fast, but then what's the point of the game if I do that, right? So the fun in the game is to see how far in the game I can get slowly corrupting the main character until I get to the part where he starts doing villainous things. And the thing is, though, and the theme of the game is what makes a good person do bad things.
Oh, a house in Skyrim.
Right.
Like seriously, same thing, but with a story. It's like a story arc that shouldn't have gone that route. I married this hot bitch in Skyrim just so that I could live in her house, and I killed her because she got on my nerves every time I come home. I killed her in front of our kids. And the sad thing was, the game glitched, so I had to fucking drag her body to a corner of the house.
Oh my God.
So the kids would be like, The kids would be like walking around like normal when I'd come home. And
They didn't want to piss you off.
And
they'd find their dead mom every time
right.
and be like, yeah, and start running. Yeah, it was great. It was great.
Yeah.
That was
Chris,
great.
be careful.
Right. But
See the villain is, right?
Yeah. So, but
All I
here's
gotta
the
say,
interesting
be careful.
thing. Yeah. So here's the interesting thing about the game. So they have the main villain, which fits the criteria of being completely irredeemable. Like, he is there to be a villain. It's like. But the funny thing is that I have a problem turning the hero into a straight villain because of that. Like, the fact that he's he starts off as a hero is what kind of stops me from playing the game the way it wants me to. So it's just kind of like an interesting mental exercise whenever I play the game. You know, that it's like, you know, the villain is hot, is smoking, villain fills all my checklists. But the hero, I'm like, oh, I don't know, man. I don't know if I could do that to you.
It's all sympathetic and everything.
You know?
Oh my gosh, it's become your second life, Daphne. The world is out to corrupt you, and you've been fighting it all this time.
Yeah, pretty much. That's how that works, right? But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. So, who's your main, like your main, like I guess your go-to villain, and what is it that really, you know, that really like kind of like attracts you to that villain?
Ooh.
It was Dr. Doom because he thinks he's smarter than everyone else, and he always gets left behind because Reed's always smarter than him. But he thinks he's smarter, but he always gets pushed behind.
Outsmarted.
I can relate to that. Yeah, he gets outsmarted. See, Randy did it to me. So, yeah, I can always relate to that because I always think I'm smarter. There's always that other guy that puts me in my place, and I'm just like,
so you're kind of like so you're kind of like a masochist.
No.
It's his ego and
I feel like
vanity
we
that
all
does
think
him
we're
in
smarter
everything.
than we are. I just get put in my place a lot. So.
My gosh, I don't know.
That's
a hard one.
Well,
What
I
about
mean,
you,
it
Mitch?
depends on like the like what you're going for, because there's one of my mains would be Jareth from the Labyrinth.
Yeah.
But it's because he's totally fuckable. Like, but
we're here
like,
that's what makes a villain.
What do you know?
But
To be fair, it's David Bowie, so
did have
it's
like a
no,
half
you see, that's the thing. That's not really the case. That's not really the case, because it's like, if we're gonna talk about like fuckable heroes or fuckable,
villains
heroes, it's like Geralt from The Witcher. Right, always does it for me, but it's not Henry Cavill that does it for me.
Right,
it's
because
the Witcher,
Henry's
character that
clean
does it.
and had a bath. You like dirty boys, Daphne.
This way a different way than
I understand Jareth is that it's the concept of Jareth. It's Jareth, not David Bowie. And I think that especially in our cases, what that has to do is like it's controllable power that we would never have. It's kind of like transcends that. It's like there's just something very attractive about living vicariously through these villains doing things that we could never do. And yes, it's because it's like now we're being villains, not victims. Which is like, for me, which is why Patrick Bateman is my number one. Because it's like, it's just, again, irredeemable. And it's like, talk about living vicariously through him.
Well, then.
How about you, Mitch? You got somebody you
as like a perfect example of a villain. Well, if not the Joker, I would probably go. I would probably use Baron Vladimir Harkonnen from.
Oh!
I mean, just
that's a bastard, man. That guy.
Yeah,
he's
a horrible.
Well done,
human
sir.
being.
Well done.
You're welcome. I mean, just like Daphne said, irredeemable. There's nothing positive about him. He's just a power-hungry dictator with a sadistic streak a mile long. If you read the book, he's a complete sadist for all the immoral reasons you can think of. Just horrible. That he's morbidly obese and covered in pores.
It's still manipulated by the emperor.
Well, that too.
Yeah.
That too. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but he's so like wrapped up in his own, I guess, evilness. I guess you'd say that he doesn't even see it.
Well, right,
Or
because
he's so easily tricked into
Yeah.
murdering the Atreides that that he doesn't even see his
his own doom walking
I was
through the door.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Joffrey.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would
That
go
was
with
the most satisfying death on television.
Oh, I don't know. Littlefinger
He
was
died?
Oh, yeah. That. Oh, shit.
Sorry.
Well, you know what, man? If you hadn't
No,
seen
you-
it yet, don't even finish this.
He's obviously he's joking.
I know, but it's
He's
utterly
seen it. I know he's
disappointing.
seen
No
it.
one watched that shit
A
now.
Littlefinger was pretty. You see,
Yeah,
and the thing is,
that was
and
awesome.
I did cheer
Littlefinger-
when Littlefinger finally
Yeah.
did get it. I just don't like the way he got it.
You didn't cheer.
Oh, no,
you screamed.
that
Even
was
he was
no.
disappointed.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
Like, this
shit.
time out, really?
No,
Really?
no. You know who had a satisfying ending? Roose Bolton.
Oh,
Yes, Bolton. Yes.
Yeah,
Mm.
when he got eaten by his
By the
own
dog.
dog.
God, something so fucking
Or
good went to
Ramsay.
complete shit.
That's what she's talking about.
That's what
Ramsay's
she's talking about.
Ramsay,
Ramsay.
not
Oh,
Roose.
Ramsay. I think
Yeah.
Roose is the father.
Father,
I think,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
you're talking about, yeah.
Gosh.
Uh-huh.
The most accurate description of a series ever was that fucking horse meme where it's this fine ass detail in the beginning and stick figure at the end.
So basically, the villains were the writers. I got you.
Yes. No,
Yeah.
George R. R. Martin is the fucking villain. That motherfucker needs to put some shit out.
Yeah.
He
Well,
won't.
now nobody cares
We're
anymore.
done.
That was
Well, yeah,
Dennis
now
off
we're
and
done.
whatever
It's
his
like-
lackey
it's like-
was.
it's
So
too
they
late
couldn't
now.
finish it right. So
Mm.
See, I don't have a go-to villain per se. It's usually somebody who would have good intentions, but they end up this. Okay, for instance, like I said, we were watching Breaking Bad, and if you haven't seen it, I don't want to get into it, but basically, you're talking about a guy who supposedly started doing something because it was for the good of his family. But what happens is he actually likes it, and he starts revealing who he really is. And I think when that's the kind of
I'm the
villain
one
you
who
look at.
knocks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Mhm.
yeah.
And it's like because in all is basically the only reason he hasn't been that person is because he had some kind of moral fiber, and once that moral fiber was removed, he could become who he wanted to be.
But really, there's no heroes on that show.
Oh,
Everybody's
no.
a villain.
I don't know the
Gus
uncle.
Fring was
Well,
great.
his son
Hey.
was pretty moral.
Oh fuck.
Yeah, pretty moral.
I hate that kid.
I mean, you know,
The kid.
that's about it. But yeah.
Yeah, his son.
Well, but I think that's kind of the
I
point
hated his
about
wife.
how everybody
Yes.
She
just,
got what she deserved by the end of
got
the show. That was
dragged
that was
into
good
it.
writing right there.
you know.
Kilgrave.
Right.
Now, I'm not
Also
talking
known as
about the
Purple
Purple
Man.
Man. I'm not talking
No,
about the Purple
no.
Man. The way David Tennant acted that character out, I'm sorry.
He was gross.
He was gross. He was
Well, but-
slimy.
But wasn't that
yes.
the point of the character?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Even
That
in
was
the
the point of the
comics, he-
character.
He was gross with that whole Jessica Jones thing. But
Yeah.
yeah,
But
He's
in
like-
the comics,
see-
he was purple.
yeah.
Well, he wore purple suits, but he the whole show was purple actually. But that's the epitome of it. That was the character that you actually loved to hate. You wanted something bad to happen to this character,
Yeah.
and he pulled. There was nothing redeemable about him.
Mm-mm.
Nothing. Yeah, if I had to go for a go-to, that would be it. That would be it. There was just nothing redeemable about him. There was just this essence of evil. All over, even when they brought his parents in, you're like, oh man, now here we go. So we're gonna have a sympathetic backstory, poor Kevin, and all this other bullshit. Nope, not even. He's a bastard through and through. It's like, thank God. All right, what's up, Larry? So with that, now that we've had this discussion, villains, and we've talked about the villains and the different type of villains, what can we do now to incorporate that into our own creations?
Let them inspire us.
Yeah, no, for real. For
Depends
real.
on the story you're going for. If you want a sympathetic villain that goes to therapy, write it. She
Well, that's
won't read it.
No, I will not read it.
But
I will not read it. You want
it
to
depends
put
on what
your
you
coffee
want.
shop AUs on AO3. Let
Depends on what
let
you
the
want,
chicken cutlets on Twitter read it.
Yeah. If it's not,
Every story deserves its own thing. You can have a villain this week or this month that does therapy sessions and gets to the meat and potatoes of why he's fucked up.
Oh my
Next month,
God.
you can have just a pure evil guy that's just like, hey, I want you dead.
Right.
if it's not Tony Soprano, I do not want to see a villain.
That's
there.
true. Absolutely. He's
Yeah.
the only one. He's the only one. Because also the thing is too is that Tony, which makes what made that show special was that Tony was never redeemed by it.
Yeah.
He went to therapy, but Tony was Tony.
Yep.
Therapy
doesn't
that's
work
the
for all of
thing.
us.
Right, exactly. In fact, it's like, by the end of it, you even saw like the son beginning to get involved in it.
Yeah.
You saw, the daughter was kind of like, well, this is just my life. And the wife was always kind of, I forget, Camilla. It's like she always knew.
Mm-hmm.
And she wasn't in any rush to get out of that life either. So it was just like, yeah, he was going to therapy, but it wasn't really improving anything.
Right.
Yeah. It was leading so great into a great finale. Then no,
the finale was
Believe
brilliant.
it or not, I've
It
never
was the
seen
only way. It was that last episode was the only
Yeah.
way they could have done it.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's the only way they could have done it. Anything else,
Well, you get to the point where certain things get so hyped up. Are you going to be satisfied when?
Right, exactly. So it's like better to think your cable went out and never know.
That's what I thought happened when I saw the final episode.
everybody
I'm like,
did.
I was gonna.
Right.
What?
Yeah. But you know what? It's the complete opposite of what the Game of Thrones writers did. It's like they just said, you know what? We're going to have you guessing this for the rest of your life. While the Game of Thrones writers, while the Game of Thrones writers like, oh shit, they figured out our story. Let's change it at the last second so that we feel clever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and they ended up looking like
much better than the Lost ending.
Yeah.
So
I still don't understand what that ending was.
The Lost ending?
Yeah.
It was the
Are
beginning.
They dead?
They were dead all along.
No, they weren't. The guy said I actually read this. They weren't dead all along. From what
it should have been. It should have been in purgatory the whole time.
I never saw the series, but I know the producer came out a couple of years back saying no, they weren't dead. That they died at the end. All of them were dead at the end. But
they were the hallucination of autistic patients in a hospital staring at a snow globe.
That would have worked.
Yeah,
better.
right.
I know what you're referencing.
Saint Elsewhere.
I would have been so pissed.
I like Randy's theory on that it was actually Neverland.
I want to rewrite Lost. Yeah, it was supposed to be Neverland. You could tell from the all the way through the first season it was Neverland, and then they switched it. So then the smoke demon was the last remaining fairy that was pissed. So she saved anybody that had a spark of imagination with them, or that childlike spark of imagination, because Neverland was the Isle of Imagination.
See, if they had kept it like that, I would have watched the show, but I didn't.
Oh, it would have been phenomenal. You could only get to it from a certain angle. A group of scientists accidentally stumbled across it and started doing scientific experiments.
You have to go 45 degrees this way.
And the first thing they did
first start on the right.
And straight on the right.
Yeah, first start to the right and straight on until morning. But the first thing they did was move the kids off the island because they knew, anything the kids are thinking is going to come to life. So get them the hell out of there. So that's why they ran across that Flash comic with the polar bear on it. And suddenly there was a polar bear on the island.
Oh, here we go. Chat.
Not the Flash.
Chat. I need you to fight
Flash.
again.
No, it was a
I need
polar
you to
bear.
fight. Willy Wonka. Is Willy Wonka a villain? I'm talking about the Gene
Gene Wilder?
Gene Wilder. Is he
Yeah.
a villain? Is
Grandpa
Willy Wonka
was a
a villain? Yeah,
Grandpa,
yeah.
that's
Grandpa's
not
the
debatable.
villain.
Grandpa Joe's definitely one of the biggest villains.
Just a
in
lazy
cinema history.
bastard. That's
Yeah.
Or a very irresponsible lazy bastard.
Right.
Or
was
both.
was Willy Wonka a villain? Because he was just sitting there watching these kids just off themselves.
I don't
I
think
had
that's,
the Oompa Loompas clean them up and send them back. That's
and I
all.
know everybody hates it, but that's actually why I like the Johnny Depp Willy Wonka, because he was like a big kid,
What?
and he was a big kid, and he was jealous of the other kids, and you could that's why he was so unhappy.
Here's
Michael
the
Jackson.
backstory. Yeah, I know,
Huh?
really, and we know how well that went out. How well that went.
That's who he
no,
was.
Gene
That's okay.
Wilder,
So
because I like the Gene Wilder Willy Wonka because the man was a borderline sociopath.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like he was
Gene
really
Wilder played it to the
determined
T.
to. Yeah, thank you. Thank
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
Exactly what it was. It was
That-
the OG.
that's
Hunger
quotable
Games,
right there,
Thank
Brian.
you, Brian.
So is he President Snow?
You know,
Oh my
you know,
gosh.
yeah, pretty. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
pretty
mean,
much.
That's yeah.
Well, I
Just a
mean,
name I threw out there. I don't even
he's
know
a
what
villain
that
by
shit is.
complacency, right? I mean, because basically, when Augustus Gloop fell in there, he's like, "Oh no, no."
No,
You know,
no.
like,
He was more
Nobody save
angry
Not
at
again.
the chocolate. He was more angry at the chocolate being
Been
ruined.
contaminated, right?
I'd be mad too.
yeah.
That's in my chocolate.
Well, them kids deserve. They're the villains. What are we
Yeah,
talking
Yeah,
about?
the kids,
They
the
were all
kids are
little
villains in
dicks.
Willy Wonka.
Molesting
Perusa
poor Willy
Salt,
Wonka's
yeah, she was
factory.
horrible.
Yeah.
Baruka.
Baruka.
You could just see the Oompa Loompas on that show. It's a shit job, but at least we
They
get to
were
sing.
minions. It makes
Yeah,
sense.
they were the
Yeah,
they
it
were
makes
the
sense.
minions. Dressed like them and everything.
They're like banana. It makes sense.
Where'd you get them from? Oh, that's slum slave labor from another country. Don't worry
Yeah,
about
don't
those
worry
guys.
about it. Yeah, exactly.
They're here to clean up
They
the
would
mess
have
we're
died.
about
They
to
would
make.
have died if I left them there anyway.
because
Yeah,
I would have
my
killed them.
gosh.
That's what that means.
orange man bad, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Oh my
Baruka
god.
bad.
Yeah.
So okay. Anyway, nobody. I think Brian summed that up perfectly. Actually,
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very satisfied with that answer.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
So Daphne, you want to tell them where we can find you?
Well, you can find me and my villains at egoworks.com, EGWRKS, where you can find links to all of my galleries and social media sites, but I mostly post to Facebook. If you are into seeing sketches and current work in progress and all that fun stuff. You can also check out my videos here on YouTube at Daphne Lage Art, which also live streams through the Ragin 2 network. And also at EagleWorks, you can also read the first 5 issues of Eagle Raven, Heir of the First Unicorn, in its original black and white format. But if you prefer your fantasy to be more of a Lord of the Rings type of adventure with irredeemable villains, you can follow the link to Tall Tales, TAILSonline.com, and read the first 20 issues of Tall Tales for free.
All right, Randy.
You can find me on Facebook. You can email me at thezimcast@gmail.com. I'll be on the Zimcast tomorrow night at 9 p.m. where we'll be looking at the wonderful comic news that's happened this last week and whether or not we can learn anything from it. And then I'll be on Sundays, Sunday mornings, Sunday funnies. And Brian Dojo was asking earlier, was that an issue of Cherry Pop-Tart you saw slide past the screen in the promo? Yes, it was.
Oh.
We try to put the fun back in funny books Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. Here on the Ragin 2 network. Other than that, I got a bunch of stuff coming, but it's all down the line. So I'll be, if you want to actually see me in person, I'll be at the really cool Comic-Con here in Flint, Michigan on August 6th and 7th.
Will you
So
have
I've
good water?
Been added there as a guest. They've had good water for a while. They've just had bad pipes that they've had to replace for a long time.
The villains of Flint.
They just took their time.
That's
the only
whole-
villain
Yeah,
really,
that's a whole other thing.
Nestle
you know?
is the villain.
the only villain was the governor, but that's a whole other. And his
I'm
lackeys
sorry.
who wouldn't listen to people that were carrying dirty water to City Hall, and they were like going, "Not our fault. We had emergency managers
That's
at that
not
time." so-
chocolate.
Well, it's not affecting us.
Ugh.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, in
it's
the
not affecting
meantime,
us.
the
Not
governor's
gushers.
office in Lansing was spreading around emails going, what's a few lower IQ points to the people in the northern part of Flint?
Who cares about the poor?
Literally what they were saying.
Yeah, well, idiots.
That they'd
I don't-
still been
Makes the very
prosecuted
best.
from it. So, but
Michigan
anyway.
needs an original villain.
Well, we have another governor that's almost as bad, but
yeah,
that's all depends on how you look at it.
That's exactly.
Really cool Comic-Con, August 6th and 7th. I'll be there. I'll have copies of comics to sell, lots of copies of comics to sell, even some that nobody has seen before, like
Woo, let's see that one.
Calico there. We'll have Calico there.
Yeah,
We'll
I am
have,
sending out. I'm
Paragon
sending
there.
out your copies. See.
We'll have some hybrids there. We'll have some Arrow comics there to sell. I'm working on a back display banner as we speak. So it's all good.
Mitch,
See you there.
Yes, sir. You can find me here at Linktree/Celtic Cross Studios, where you can find my website, my social media, my webcomics, and my clothing store or apparel store.
All right. You get you some Mitch Boo, I guess.
Oh, get that drip.
Yeah,
That's
and it
what the
wasn't until
kids
last
call
year
it.
where I found out what that was.
All right.
Jared, go ahead.
I have no drip.
Oh no.
Oh, wow. Well, thank goodness, because you might need to get that checked out, dude.
Depends on what color it is.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Purple.
So, oh, whoa.
Ooh,
You better get
see
that
a
looked
doctor
at,
to
buddy.
see, yeah.
Does it smell?
It oozes. Anyway, I'm Jared. You can find me at
It's
on
not
Facebook.
dripping.
We can be friends if you want. You can ask me questions or hate me like a lot of people do, but not as much as her, I guess. But
How much do we have to grind that joke into the ground before we all become villains?
if I have the goatee, I can go. But yeah, that's me.
All right. Do you want to say where you're from? I mean, really?
Nah, I'm the god here.
Wow.
Wait, no, I'm a villain. I'm the ultimate villain. All right. Take us away, minion.
Anyway, so I'll say Michael Lanning. Of course, you can always find me on Linktree. And of course, next week, right here on Dispatches, where we'll be talking about cryptids. So bring your Bigfoots, bring your Mothmen, bring your Chupacabras, bring your rakes, and come talk to us about the cryptids.
I live with them.
Because that's
Oh,
retarded
Mothman
werewolf.
just the other day. Anyway.
And come talk to us about cryptids. And while you're doing that, always remember to be inventive with whatever you create. So I'm going to leave you out.
Cryptids in therapy.
That's it.
Cryptids in therapy.
Cryptids in therapy, right?
I'll read that.
Thing. But anyway, we'll leave you. Our word for the week is going to be the best villain backstory ever.
Uh-oh.
Please, let's hear about your childhood.
Okay. Very well. Where do I begin? My father was a relentlessly self-improving boulangerie owner from Belgium with low-grade narcolepsy and a penchant for buggery. My mother was a 15-year-old French prostitute named Chloe with webbed feet. My father would womanize, he would drink, he would make outrageous claims like he invented the question mark. Sometimes he would accuse chestnuts of being lazy, the sort of general malaise that only the genius possess and the insane lament. My childhood was typical. Summers in Rangoon, luge lessons. In the spring, we'd make meat helmets. When I was insolent, I was placed in a burlap bag and beaten with reeds. Pretty standard, really. At the age of 12, I received my first scribe. At the age of 14, as a roastery named Vilma ritualistically shaved my testicles. At the age of 18, I went off to evil medical school. At the age of 25, I took up tap dancing. I wanted to be a quadruple threat. An actor, a dancer.
You know, we have to stop.